Hey guys, it's Nick from Miss here. I recently got my hands on Street Fighter 6 and figured it would be a great opportunity to make some new content for the channel. I love guest characters in fighting games. Mortal Kombat, Injustice, Tekken, Soul Calibur, and Killer Instinct have all had some pretty epic guests over the years, whereas Street Fighter has stayed pretty true to its own universe. Sure, there's been lots of crossovers like Street Fighter X Tekken, Ryu and Ken in Smash Bros., Ryu and Chun-Li in the Marvel vs. Capcom games, and even in the Power Rangers game. The only true guest characters that Street Fighter has had are Bad Box Art Mega Man, Pac-Man, Cole McGrath, Toro, and Kuro. They were only in Street Fighter X Tekken, and on the PS3 version at that. I consider them guests because they didn't come from either Street Fighter or Tekken. However, they only appeared in the crossover game. I also don't count Final Fight characters that have made it into Street Fighter as guests, because those games have always been connected. Final Fight was supposed to be a spin-off of Street Fighter after all. So really, a regular Street Fighter game has never had a true guest character. Will that change this time around? Let's talk about it. I feel like if we do get a guest character in Street Fighter 6, it will most likely be another fighting game character, or at the very least, a video game character. I highly doubt Street Fighter would pull a Tekken and randomly add a character like Negan, but who knows. Street Fighter V started to get more adventurous, adding costumes from other Capcom franchises like Devil May Cry, which proves they're willing to work with other licenses. So I don't think guest characters are a total no for Street Fighter. I'm going to list off some characters that I think are high on the list and give my thoughts on them. Jin or Kazuya from Tekken. As I mentioned earlier, Street Fighter had a crossover game with Tekken in the past, so seeing someone like Jin or Kazuya from Tekken would be pretty fitting. Tekken being another huge fighting game in Japan, Kazuya and Ryu fighting alongside each other in Smash Bros., and Akuma being a guest fighter in Tekken 7 makes these chances pretty high in my opinion. I expect if we're going to see any guest in Street Fighter 6, it will be a Tekken character. Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. This pick seems like a no-brainer, but even as a huge Mortal Kombat fan, I have to admit I don't see this happening. For one, Mortal Kombat is obviously very bloody and gory, and Street Fighter is not. Injustice proved that they can make Mortal Kombat characters work in a T rating and still have them be badass and a good representation of their character. It's just that Mortal Kombat isn't big in Japan, like, at all. A popular Japanese magazine asked their readers in 2017 to vote for their top 20 fighting games, and Mortal Kombat didn't show up on the list once. Yikes. Granted, that doesn't mean Scorpion can't be added, I just don't see there being much of a point when he's not a popular character in the developer's eyes. We know Mortal Kombat co-creator Ed Boon has been gunning for some sort of Street Fighter MK crossover for years now, but it seems to be a pretty one-sided relationship, as Street Fighter has shown zero interest. Hell, even Smash Bros. Added a bunch of fighting game characters and never contacted NetherRealm Studios about the possibility of Mortal Kombat characters. Ouch. When I've talked about these two games colliding in the past, I pretty much always mention the fact that I think Scorpion would show up in Street Fighter well before Ryu or Akuma ever show up in Mortal Kombat. I doubt Capcom would be okay with NRS ripping their characters apart. As much as I'd love to see this, I don't think it'll ever happen. Terry Bogard from Fatal Fury. I'll be honest, I know very little about Fatal Fury. I learned most of what I know about Terry Bogard through his Death Battle episode against Ken, and his appearance in Smash Bros. I gotta say I think he's an awesome character though, and I wouldn't mind seeing him included in the Street Fighter series. Capcom had a crossover series in the past with Fatal Fury's developer, SNK. So it wouldn't even be the first time Terry and Ryu could fight one another, or the second time since they're both in Smash Bros. Too. I think Terry has decent chances of showing up. I figured it's worth mentioning that maybe even Marvel superheroes could be guest characters if they decide to stray from fighting game characters. Marvel vs. Capcom is a huge crossover series with Street Fighter characters on the roster. It would be pretty cool to see a Marvel guest in Street Fighter, since Mortal Kombat has had DC guests in the past. I doubt we would see a Marvel character as a guest, but since the crossover game exists, I just thought it was worth mentioning. Someone like Spider-Man or the Hulk would be badass to see in Street Fighter. If they did take that route, I think it's more likely we would see some other Capcom characters as guest fighters. Someone like Dante from Devil May Cry, or maybe a Resident Evil character like Wesker or Chris Redfield. Capcom already owns the rights, so that wouldn't be an issue. At the very least, I definitely see Street Fighter 6 adding more outside costumes like they have in the past. I thought a cool one to see would be the Power Ranger skins for Ryu and Chun-Li. Overall, as much as I would love to see guest characters in Street Fighter, I don't have the highest expectations that it'll happen. Never say never, I guess. Like I said, it's more likely we would get other fighting game characters if we get any guests at all, and the ones I mentioned are characters I think have the best chances of being included, or at least were worth mentioning. Let me know in the comments below what you think about guest fighters in Street Fighter 6, and be sure to subscribe for more Street Fighter content. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, this has been Nickfamous. See you later.
Let's see how he likes a Kamehameha!